Hey there! Let's see if you can ace this quiz about these fabulous, fierce, and feisty queens in history. You'll have 10 seconds to guess the answer. Let's get started. What was the ancestry of the legendary Cleopatra, Queen of the Nile? Egyptian, Macedonian Greek, Roman, or African? And the answer is Macedonian Greek. Scholars generally identify Cleopatra as essentially of Greek ancestry with some Persian and Sogdian Iranian ancestry. This is based on the fact that her Macedonian Greek family, the Ptolemaic dynasty, had intermarried with the Macedonian Greek royal family founded by Seleucus the First Nicator, one of Alexander the Great's generals. Mary, Queen of Scots, was the youngest ever British monarch. How old was she when she became queen? 6 hours, 6 days, 6 months, or 6 years? And it is 6 days. Mary, Queen of Scots, was just 6 days old when she was named Queen of Scotland, following the death of her father, King James V of Scotland, in December 1542. Some sources suggest that the king died of a fever, while others speculate that he may have had a kidney or urinary tract infection. Either way, Mary became queen by right of succession, since she was the only surviving legitimate child of King James. Catherine the Great was the longest-serving female leader of which country? Egypt, Russia, France, or England? And the answer is Russia. Catherine the Great, also known as Catherine II, was the longest-serving female leader of Russia, ruling as empress from 1762 until her death in 1796. She was a skilled politician and stateswoman, and she implemented a number of significant reforms during her reign. She is remembered as one of Russia's greatest rulers. Who was the first of Henry VIII's queens to get beheaded? Jane Seymour, Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, or Anne of Cleves? And it was Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn was the second wife of Henry VIII and the mother of Queen Elizabeth I. Anne was known for her intelligence, wit, and charm, and she played a significant role in the English court. However, she was also a controversial figure. She was accused of adultery, incest, and high treason and found guilty. She was sentenced to death by beheading in 1536, although I must add that the charges against Anne were likely fabricated by her enemies at court, as there is evidence to suggest that she was the victim of a political conspiracy. Which Tudor queen ordered 280 Protestants burned at the stake as heretics? Catherine of Aragon, Mary I, Elizabeth of York, or Jane Seymour? And the answer is Queen Mary I. Mary was a deeply religious woman and strongly opposed the Protestantism that had become widespread in England during the reign of her half-brother, Edward VI. Upon becoming queen, she worked to restore Catholicism as the official religion of the country and pursued a policy of persecution against Protestants. Which Indian city was given to Charles II as part of his dowry when he married Catherine of Braganza? Bombay, Pune, Goa, or Delhi? And it is Bombay. The city of Bombay, now known as Mumbai, was given to King Charles II of England as part of his dowry when he married Catherine of Braganza, a Portuguese princess, in 1661. The dowry was agreed upon as part of the marriage treaty between England and Portugal, and it included a number of territories and possessions, including the island of Bombay. How is Cleopatra believed to have died? She was assassinated, she was killed by her lover, she died of natural causes, or she committed suicide. The answer is suicide. According to some accounts by ancient historians such as Plutarch and Cassius Dio, Cleopatra committed suicide by allowing a poison asp to bite her. According to these accounts, Cleopatra had the asp brought to her in a basket of figs and allowed it to bite her, causing her to die from the poison. But I should note that some historians have pointed out that suicide was considered a sin in ancient Egyptian culture, and it is unlikely that Cleopatra, who was a devout Egyptian, would have chosen to take her own life. Which queen mounted a coup with the help of her lover and led 14,000 soldiers on horseback to overthrow her husband? Queen Victoria, Queen Isabella, Catherine the Great, or Queen Caroline Matilda? And it is Catherine the Great. In 1762, Catherine led a group of 14,000 soldiers to unseat her husband, Tsar of Russia, Peter III. After successfully dethroning him, she emerged from the Winter Palace in a male guardsman's uniform, proclaiming herself the new empress. Peter III abdicated and was assassinated 8 days later. Although Catherine probably did not order the murder of Peter, it was most likely committed by her supporters, so public opinion held her responsible. Queen Isabella of Spain funded which famous explorers' travels? Amerigo Vespucci, Christopher Columbus, Marco Polo, Ferdinand Magellan. And the answer is Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus was an Italian explorer who was sponsored by Queen Isabella I of Castile and King Ferdinand II of Aragon to undertake a voyage of discovery to the New World. Columbus is credited with discovering the Americas and opening the way for the widespread European exploration and colonization of the Americas. Which British queen also held the title of Empress of India? Queen Elizabeth I, Queen Anne, Queen Mary I, or Queen Victoria? It was Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria was the British queen who also held the title of Empress of India, which was granted to her in 1876. Queen Victoria played a key role in the expansion of the British Empire, including the colonization of India. During her reign, the British government oversaw significant changes in India, including the expansion of infrastructure and the development of a centralized bureaucracy. She was also instrumental in the development of modern India's legal and educational systems. However, Victoria's reign also saw significant conflicts and struggles in India, including the Indian Rebellion of 1857 and the ongoing resistance to British rule. Who was the first ever woman to be crowned Queen of England? Elizabeth I, Matilda, daughter of Henry I, Ethelfled, wife of King Edgar, or Mary Tudor? The correct answer is Mary Tudor, also known as Mary I. Some say that Ethelfled, wife of King Edgar the Peaceful, who ruled England from 959 to 975, was the first Queen of England. But in truth, she was actually only a queen consort, although Edgar did anoint her as queen. You see, a queen consort is the wife of a king and does not hold any political power in her own right. Whereas Mary Tudor was the daughter of King Henry VIII and his first wife Catherine of Aragon, and she is considered to be the first woman to be crowned Queen of England in her own right, which happened in 1553. What nickname did Mary I earn during her reign from 1553 to 1558? Good Queen Mary, Mary the Great, Queen Mother Mary, or Bloody Mary? And she was known as Bloody Mary. This unfortunate nickname was thanks to Mary's persecution of Protestant heretics, whom she burned at the stake in the hundreds. While hundreds died under Mary I's reign, her dark legacy may have as much to do with the fact that she was a Catholic monarch succeeded by a Protestant queen in a country that remained Protestant. Her own father, Henry VIII, executed 81 people for heresy, and her half-sister, Elizabeth I, also executed scores of people for their faith. So it could be said that she was no more bloody than other monarchs in history. Which Queen of England was married to King Henry VI and was referred to by Shakespeare as the She-Wolf of France? Margaret of Anjou, Yolande, Duchess of Lorraine, Marie, Countess of Harcourt, or Catherine of Valois? The answer is Margaret of Anjou. Margaret of Anjou was a formidable queen who played a leading role in the Wars of the Roses during the incapacity of her husband, Henry VI, King of England and Lord of Ireland and disputed King of France. Margaret of Anjou was called the She-Wolf because of her fierce and tenacious personality. She was a strong and influential figure, and she was willing to fight for her rights and the rights of her family. She was also known for her loyalty to her husband and her fierce protection of her children, earning her the nickname of She-Wolf. What did Queen Isabella establish that caused massive religious tension and violence? The Basque witch trials, the Salem witch trials, the Spanish Inquisition, St. Bartholomew's Day massacre. It was the Spanish Inquisition. The Spanish Inquisition was established in 1478 by Pope Sixtus IV at the request of Isabella I of Castile and her husband, Ferdinand II of Aragon, who wanted to ensure the orthodoxy of their subjects and stamp out any perceived threats to the Catholic faith. It was a period of religious persecution and violence in Spain that began in the late 15th century and lasted into the early 18th century, during which those suspected of heresy or other forms of religious nonconformity were arrested, imprisoned, and subjected to torture and other forms of mistreatment, and many were executed, while the Inquisition seized the property of those it deemed guilty, leading to widespread fear and violence throughout Spain. Okay, one last one. And I saved the easiest one for last. But before we get to that, I am wondering if you like this quiz and if you would like to see more of these kinds of videos on my channel. Leave a comment and let me know, yay or nay, and if it's yay, I'll see what I can do. Now, the one last question on this quiz is, who was nicknamed the Virgin Queen due to her dislike of matrimony and motherhood? Isabella of Angoulême, Elizabeth I, Marie Antoinette, or Mary Queen of Scots? And of course, the answer is Elizabeth I. Elizabeth I of England was called the Virgin Queen because she never married or had children. This was a conscious choice on Elizabeth's part, as she believed that marriage and motherhood would detract from her ability to rule effectively. Elizabeth was also known for her virtue and chastity, and she was widely admired for her ability to resist the many suitors who sought her hand in marriage. This, combined with her unmarried status, led to her being referred to as the Virgin Queen. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching, and why not hang around and watch another video on more of the fabulous, fierce, and feisty women in history.